Oh, who's that, baby? Oh, who are all those people? Hello, BookTube, and welcome to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, book by book, author by author, era by era. The question has come up, I brought it up myself a few times in the last few days, about how long this is going to take. Not that I'm getting tired of it, and a lot of you don't seem to be either. These books mean a lot to me. They are my favorite books. If the great god Crom were to come into this room and say, you can only keep one wall of books in the whole place, I would unhesitatingly say, all right, well, I want to keep that one. I'll be sorry to see the others go, but this one I can't live without. This is the one that I prowl around, just sort of walk around and look at, pull things down. These are the books that, by and large, with a few exceptions elsewhere in the house, I have lived with the longest and returned to the most. And that's great. So I'm very grateful that you've all sort of embraced this idea of watching these things with me. And when I brought up the prospect of whether or not this would take a long time, whether or not maybe this would take longer than a year, I was, I don't think bombarded would be the wrong word. I was bombarded with responses. I leave my email on every video, so you can respond to me about anything you like, talk to me about anything you like. I was bombarded by people saying, well, who says it has to take just a year? Go as long as it takes. Okay, well, that message is well received. And of course, along with those messages were more people saying, please do this for every book in your collection. Give us a book a day. Your daily book. Once the Daily Penguin is over, give us your daily book. A few of you even referenced my old book blog, Steve Reads, from a long time ago. But Steve Reads has not been in regular production now in quite a few years. And yet, some of you seem to remember it, and remember that my mantra on Steve Reads, the way I began every single entry on Steve Reads every day, was "Our book today is." And a few of you suggested repurposing that for this vlog. A few of you for years have said that this vlog has largely taken the place of Steve Reads. Maybe there's something to that. Our book today might be fun to do in 2021, because we're not doing it in 2020. We've already got a daily book thingamajig in 2020, and the speed with which we go through this Penguin Classic wall is going to change. It's going to vary. Sometimes we'll be dealing with a single author, sometimes we're dealing, like yesterday, with a few books by one author, the Sherlock Holmes stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. I've had it reconfirmed from a lot of you that there is, in fact, a standalone volume of The Hound of the Baskervilles, and a couple of you even sent me shots of what the cover looks like, and I feel certain that I have it. It's probably on this wall somewhere, and I just haven't put it together with the other Sherlock Holmes books. I also noticed quite a few of you notified me that there are complete black spine Penguin Classic editions of the collected stories of Sherlock Holmes, but not in English. But yesterday we were able to do 3 books off this rack in one video, and today we're doing far more than that. Today we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books, because I don't know if I can do a Steve. Can I do a Steve pile of these things? I'm not sure that I can. Let's give it a try. Today on your Daily Penguin we are doing Anthony Trollope, my whole Anthony Trollope collection. This will include quite a few books that we have done we've done a lot of Trollope read-alongs on this channel. That's been a lot of fun. Like for instance, and this will also help me to notice the duplications. Here are 2 copies of The Warden, which is not a book that we've done. One of these copies has been heavily pitted. Someone was doing something on top of this book. The other one is in pristine, perfect condition. So there are 2 copies. I don't need 2 copies. I know which one to get rid of. And I think aren't there other duplications in here? Let's see. Yes, indeed. Look at that. 2 copies of the Eustace Diamonds. We had a wonderful, fun read-along of the Eustace Diamonds. And here there are 2 copies. 2 identical copies. So we'll put those aside and winnow out which one we want to deal with. What else? Look at that. Okay, here we go. There's 2 copies of The Prime Minister. One in this old Penguin with the block white letters and the color-coded bars on top, and one in the newer trade paperback with no bar, nothing on the spine except the white script title, and that's it. So I have two of the Prime Minister. What else? Do we have any others that are duplications? No. Okay. No. So we have The Small House at Ellington, in a Penguin Classic, edited by Julian Thompson. We have Framley Parsonage. This is a little bit worse for wear, but still, this is edited by David Skilton and Peter Miles. We have The Duke's Children. This is edited by Dinah Birch, but it's not The Duke's Children that is in the Everyman's Library hardcover. It's a different text. The Duke's Children in Everyman's Library is complete. It's the book that Trollope wrote, as opposed to the heavily edited and shortened version that was printed. That's what this is, and that's what every other edition of The Duke's Children that I've read and reread and loved over the years. The Duke's Children is my favorite Trollope novel. And then all of a sudden, I got this banquet. I got this gift of a version of the book that is bigger. It's every classic reading geek's dream come true, where suddenly you realize, oh yeah, in this room of the library, there's a 500-page copy of Pride and Prejudice that has lots of more scenes, lots more of Pride and Prejudice. Not pastiche, it's all from the author. It's just 3 times as big. So I don't know why, I don't quite know why I need this. I don't remember the critical apparatus, the introduction and whatnot, being good enough to keep it. What else have we got here? Can You Forgive Her? Oh my, great big thing. That is a we had a big fun read along of this. This is a gorgeous new trade paperback. I can't remember, in a lot of cases I can't remember where I got these. Maybe on Book Outlet or something like that. Here's okay. Probably the most famous Trollope that we haven't done a read along of. This is an older trade paperback of Barchester Towers. Probably they make a newer version like this for this that I don't have. This is edited by Robin Gilmore, and it could be that there's a newer version that we haven't done. Barchester Towers. We haven't done. Here's The Last Chronicle of Barset. Look at that old photo. Another big book, and a very interesting one. There's a lot going on in this book that is not like Trollope at all. I believe it's the kind of book you can only write if you have lived with these same characters in the same world for so long. I think by this point he knew that a Barsetshire novel would work with the public, that it would be shepherded through the press by his editors, and that gives an author a kind of freedom that especially a very market-minded author like Trollope doesn't always have, doesn't always allow himself. So when we get to these, we're going to do the Barset novels. So, sooner or later we will do them. It's going to be a fascinating thing for those of you who haven't read it. Okay, then a new trade paperback of Phineas Redo. That is great. I don't think I have the reason why I don't have every Trollope in Penguin, and the reason why I don't have new editions of a lot of them, is because it's one of the only cases in which I actually prefer a different publisher. I prefer the Oxfords. The Oxford World Classic, they did a centenary reprint of everything by Trollope, every piece of fiction by Trollope. And over the years I have tried other editions, and I always come back to the Oxfords because of the introduction, the notes. I just like them better. That has largely stayed true for the Penguins. I don't know why that is. It feels a little rude. Okay, oh my, here's another big one. This is edited by Frank Kermode, the great Frank Kermode. He knew he was right. Great big book. This is an older trade paperback with the color coding on the spine. I don't particularly like that at all. I much prefer, even the binding is stiffer. I much prefer the later versions, and I bet Penguin makes one for this. And we haven't done this. We haven't done He Knew He Was Right, because it's a megawatt downer to put it mildly. It's a classic standalone novel, so we may do it. But that is your Penguin for today, and it's a huge amount of Trollope, including quite a bit of duplication that I'm going to have to deal with. But I'm not going to put these back on the shelf and just deal with it some other time. I will deal with the duplications before I do that, because that frees up space. So that is your Penguin for today. Of course, Trollope does not need the recommend section of Penguin Classics, because I have been doing ecstatically joyful fanboy read-alongs of him for 2 years now. I think he's fantastic. I think he is significantly better at doing almost all of the Victorian era novelist things that people usually say Dickens is the best at. I think he's better than Dickens in all of that, especially humor, which is usually the go-to thing that people talk about for Dickens, but also three-dimensional characters. I've scarcely ever encountered a three-dimensional character in Dickens, whereas, as we've mentioned many times in our Trollope read-alongs, even the tertiary characters sometimes are people you want to know more about. You don't get to know any more about them, but you want to either know more about them or write some fan fiction about them yourself, that's not a quality that I find in many Victorian authors. So Trollope is a favorite. He's, of course, a recommend. If you want, many people over the years, over the decades, have asked me where to start. Start with Barchester Towers. It's not the Warden. The Warden is shorter and technically, earlier, but start with Barchester Towers and meet Trollope when he is being his most outgoing, his friendliest, sometimes his funniest. There are some scenes in Barchester Towers that are just a howl, and that works. The Warden is a little more rarefied, so if you get what Trollope is doing, if you get especially the way he's doing it, that quality that so many of you have noticed in our Trollope read-alongs, of him just sitting back and genially spinning you a story, a completely level field between the writer and the reader. Just, here's a tale I want to tell you. If you get that, if you sync with that right away, then the Warden is a pure, almost transparent example of that. Barchester Towers will work if you don't get that. Barchester Towers will work on you just as a book, so if that made any sense. But of course, Trollope is a recommend. If you want to bring yourself up to speed, feel free to watch all of the read-alongs that we've done on this channel of all sorts of Trollope over the months and months. And we have one ongoing. We are doing right now The Claverings by Anthony Trollope. Every weekend, I hope, every weekend. And then we'll move on from there to some other standalone Trollope. So I recommend him strongly. There are quite a few people who have discovered him through this channel, through our read-alongs, who now swear by him. And that's been very gratifying. I've had that happen before there was a YouTube, where people said, oh no, Trollope with the long whiskers and the fox hunting, oh no, he's the ultimate stuffy Victorian. It might have been suited to their taste, but he's certainly not suited to ours. I'm pleased to report that in almost every one of those cases, the person became a diehard fan and lifelong reader and rereader of Trollope. He doesn't need my help. All he needs from me is to get people past their defenses, and then he'll do the rest. So Trollope is a recommend, and this is all of Trollope. I feel certain, if I remember correctly, I pulled all the Trollope from everywhere and put it on this one shelf. And this is great, because it allows me to see what I have and what I need. So that's another thing that I'm doing on this Penguin Classic tour, is I'm cleaning, I'm pulling out the doubles and the triples and the stuff that I actually just don't want. And I'm also making a list of the things that I don't have. I now know exactly what Trollope Penguin Classics I have, which means that I can look for the ones I don't have and get them. Can I tell? Just from what I'm looking at, can I tell what some of the others might be? Orley Farm, for instance, is not here. Phineas Finn is not here. Lady Anna, John Caldegate. Yeah, there are a bunch. There are a bunch that are on here. I don't know how many Penguin makes. I know they don't make them all. Oxford did once upon for their celebration. They did even the very, very minor novels. But I'll have to look around and see. Fantastic fun. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. That is your Penguin Classic for today. It is Anthony Trollope. It is a whole shelf. This is a whole shelf. So we are catapulting forward. Wonderful feeling. Might get this done after all. So I'm going to wrap this up, and who knows what we'll encounter tomorrow. I have a suspicion that we won't be leaving the Victorian era, but we shall see. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.